During the unforgiving winters of northern Europe, where months of darkness and temperatures far below freezing were a yearly certainty, warmth wasn't just a comfort. It was the foundation of survival. The Vikings understood this better than most. Their world revolved around harsh winds, drifting snow, and nights so cold that unprotected food, tools, and clothing could freeze solid. To endure this environment, they engineered a heating method that did far more than keep a room warm. It preserved food by removing moisture, dried clothing after days spent at sea or in snow, and even stabilized humidity inside their longhouses, preventing mold and rot. This method wasn't dramatic or visually impressive. In fact, it looked deceptively simple. Yet it was so effective that centuries later, during the fuel-starved winters of World War II, Scandinavians were forced to rediscover this forgotten Norse technology. At the core of this system was the Viking earth and stone thermal mass heater, a passive warmth storage method that modern heating still struggles to rival in efficiency. Vikings learned early that an open flame loses most of its energy through convection. Heat rises too quickly, disappears into the roof, and forces constant fuel consumption. Instead of relying purely on flames, they surrounded their hearths with heavy slabs of stone and layered the floor with clay, sand, and compacted earth. When a fire burned in the hearth, these materials absorbed the heat slowly, storing it deep within their mass. Hours after the fire died, the stones continued releasing warmth evenly and silently across the entire longhouse. Archaeological studies show that a well-built Viking hearth could maintain stable temperatures for 12 to 24 hours after the last flame flickered out. In an age without chimneys, thermostats, or insulated walls, this was nothing short of engineering brilliance. While medieval Europe later created tiled stoves, masonry heaters, and Russian pechka ovens based on similar principles, the Viking version remained far more accessible. It required no brickwork, no metal components, and no artisanship. Everything came from the land: stone, soil, sand, and fire. It scaled effortlessly: small pits for huts, long thermal beds for large communal halls. Vikings even used heated stones for tasks beyond warming homes: drying nets, preserving foods, curing leather, and treating the sick with radiant heat. They likely didn't understand the physics behind thermal mass, but they understood the results: warmth that stayed, warmth that lasted, warmth that saved lives. Fast forward to the winter campaigns of World War II. Soldiers fighting across Norway, Finland, and northern Germany faced the same brutal climate the Vikings once did. Supply lines froze, firewood became scarce, and open fires were dangerous. Smoke could reveal a unit's position to enemy aircraft or patrols. Engineers and local guides began revisiting traditional Scandinavian survival methods. The solution they found echoed the Viking principle almost exactly: thermal pits. These were shallow trenches or cavities filled with dense stones, heated with small, controlled fires. When the stones were sufficiently hot, the fire was extinguished, and the pit sealed with metal sheets or layers of earth. The result was a hidden, smokeless heating system that provided slow, consistent warmth for hours. No visible flames, no smoke trail, no sound, and almost no fuel needed. Soldiers quickly realized the versatility of this method. Thermal pits kept tents warm through the night, dried soaked uniforms, warmed food rations, reduced condensation, and even thawed frozen weapons. Accounts from the Arctic fronts describe soldiers sitting or sleeping directly over these pits to escape the deadly cold. The method became so widespread that after World War II, Scandinavian authorities restricted large-scale civilian use, not because the system was ineffective, but because poorly built underground heaters in barns and storage cellars posed serious risks. With inadequate ventilation, the pits could cause carbon monoxide poisoning or ignite deep underground fires that smoldered for days. It wasn't the technique that was dangerous. It was the scale and the lack of ventilation knowledge. The physics behind the Viking system is both simple and profound. Dense materials like stone, clay, and sand have what engineers call high thermal mass, an ability to absorb heat slowly, store it for long periods, and release it gradually. This lag effect means that even when the fire dies, the heat continues radiating for hours. An open flame gives immediate warmth, but loses most of its energy quickly. A thermal mass system creates slow, stable, predictable heat that feels natural and comfortable. This is why modern masonry heaters, cob stoves, rocket mass heaters, and even passive solar homes still rely on the same principle. You heat a mass, not air. Air escapes. Mass remembers. For off-grid builders or anyone seeking efficient heating today, adapting this ancient system is surprisingly straightforward. A simple stone bed beneath a floor can become a long-lasting heat battery. Select dense stones like granite or basalt. Avoid porous rocks that might crack under heat. Build a small fire over the stones. Let them absorb warmth for several hours. Then extinguish the fire, remove the coals, and seal the pit. The stored heat will rise naturally into the structure above. Modern adaptations include rocket mass heaters, which channel hot exhaust through long, stone-filled benches to maximize heat retention, or thermal battery floors in greenhouses that soak up daytime warmth and release it overnight. The concept hasn't changed since Viking times. Only the materials and safety measures have. What's remarkable is not just that this ancient method worked. It's that it continues to outperform many modern systems. There's no electricity, no moving parts, no complicated machinery. It is sustainable, silent, fuel-efficient, and built entirely from natural materials. The post-war restrictions weren't a condemnation of the technique. They were a response to people building oversized, poorly vented systems that outperformed their understanding of safety. Used correctly, the Viking heating principle remains one of the most effective and environmentally friendly ways to heat an enclosed space. As energy costs rise and the modern world shows increasing interest in self-sufficiency, Viking wisdom feels more relevant than ever. Their heating system didn't rely on gadgets or technology. It relied on observing nature and using what the land provided. It's a reminder that sometimes the smartest, most resilient solutions are hidden in the past. If the Vikings could warm entire longhouses without electricity, manufactured fuel, or modern insulation, we can certainly learn from their approach today. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten engineering, subscribe to Forgotten Survival and share this story with fellow history enthusiasts. The past is full of solutions that still have plenty to teach us about survival, adaptation, and thriving in the coldest conditions the world can throw at us.